Hello, adventurers, and welcome to another Random Adventures podcast. I'm your host, Nate, and I'm here in the studio with Ranger Liz.
Hello.
Lich Lord Bryan.
Hello.
Mike.
Hello.
And Carolyn.
Hi.
And today, we're going to be talking to you about world building. How do you introduce your players to this new world and setting that you are providing them with? Even if it's not one you built, but even just a new and exotic world for them to explore.
New world for my players to explore all day. No, I'm done.
And I.
So, I'll start off with basically saying this. Don't expect the players to actually read the book. As much as I love the lore sections in the books, as much as I enjoy reading the lore for games like Exalted and Battletech and Anima and all the others, I honestly have come to discover that I should never, ever count on the players to read those parts of the book.
I would expand on that. Don't expect the players to care about the lore in the book.
Because I don't.
I tried reading the lore in Exalted, Nathan. I tried. I honestly tried, and it put me to sleep.
Yes, which is why I need to get back to working on lore bites.
The biggest thing is if your world has a lore in it, the only thing you should really expect your players to know are the really, really important stuff.
Yeah, focus mostly, I would say, on the important stuff, and I think releasing some of the lore slowly over time. If you want your game to be lore-based, have
Find
your
players
characters...
who like find players who are already into
Yeah,
it.
find players who are either into discovering lore, or have your players actually discover maybe, like, lost lore. Have that lore be lost from the world, and have your players actually be the ones who are, discovering this stuff that has been forgotten.
Or introduce it to them little bits at a time. A little snippet here, a little snippet there. Keep having this stuff pop up so that they, kind of know stuff might be important. But,
Not everyone's a fanboy.
not everyone's a fanboy. Not everyone goes in depth or looks at it. So just keep the introduction to the world simple. Now, when it comes to putting together rich and complex worlds, we're actually quite fortunate right now to have Mike in the studio with us, because when it comes to putting together rich, complex, and oftentimes interesting worlds and settings...
Don't forget convoluted. Don't forget the convoluted. Did we ever figure out what the heck was happening in that first campaign?
Honestly, I think we got...
You were screwing up everything. I know that much.
Yes.
Yes, I think we kind of got to the point of screw it.
Mutant bunny rabbits.
Well, you guys got close. It was kind of just a give up, I don't care anymore after that point.
Well, the, month of hiatus didn't help.
I believe it was 2 or 3 months.
It was.
We stopped in May.
Yeah, there was a long period of hiatus, and it really didn't help.
It was their fault. I'm pointing and no one can see it.
Yes, I'm sorry real life interfered with the campaign.
You just had to prepare for the wedding.
Uh-huh.
Sorry.
Uh-huh. It's always the fault of the people getting married.
I blame you.
You're not invited to the next one.
Is there something we need to know about?
They're recommitment ceremonies.
Oh, okay.
But anyways, yeah, my type of games, they're always out in left field. We can put it that way. I mean, the previous game was, okay, everyone wanted high level, so let's create a world that's interesting but confusing. Went with the world that you have to erase this half of the world that's already been laid out for you, and then just twist the rest of it, and then start everyone there. I mean, it's hard to explain, but good prime example is with my current campaign. The first campaign became magic heavy. So my next campaign, I wanted oh, guess what? There's no more magic. And that was the basis for this one. So it's like, okay, there's no more magic, but how did it get that way? So...
Is that what we're supposed to be doing? Or is that supposed to be figuring out how magic died?
No, that's something totally
That's
different.
something that we may run into. It's an important fact, but not something we need to figure out.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's basically... I went for the total reversals of no magic, of hardly any magic items, but make your magic items relic items, and then have a whole nother twist on this world that can bring you your magic items, but that also has a twist upon itself.
It's like the inception of M. Night Shyamalan.
Well, I mean, it's like I created the no magic, and I wanted to what made it that way. So there was a giant war that eventually got it that way, but then you have to make, okay, there's this giant war, so that means certain races are only available, certain races are now dead, certain races aren't available for player creation, but they can be available later because you're not in that region. And
Is Nate's new character technically on the other side of us? Should we be on? Is he on like the opposing side of our races?
no, it was just on the other side of the mountain range where you guys started from,
Okay.
basically. But basically, it was a way to turn everything on its head. And then I was inspired by a random comic book that I was reading that, okay, well, that's something different. And that's something that no one's ever really thought of before, so let's tie that in and make that one of the big bads of the campaign. Because no one's ever seen it before. No one knows what its stats could possibly look like.
Next time we're over there, we need you to look through his comic collection.
Just make sure you're distracting him.
You better come 5 hours early.
Yeah, I was about to say, they got like half the Neptune comics in their house.
Might need help, Nate. You run distraction.
I don't think you'll find it.
Crap, it's in a lockbox, isn't it? Did you move it to your safety deposit box?
It's like, my players will never find it here.
We will never tell.
Here, I'll give you a tip. I only have one graphic novel of that type. It's in there.
Okay.
We have a hint, it's a graphic novel.
Oh, dear Lord.
Yeah. Alright. Well, we can rule out any kind of manga or romantic comedy.
No, you can't. You can't rule that out.
Yeah, we can, because he said that it's the only one of that kind. And I've seen he's got a ton of manga. So therefore, has to be something unique.
Maybe it's the only manga from a specific company.
Yeah, you can't really rule that out, Nathan. You don't know of what kind he's talking about.
I mean, of that, I mean, how many new 52 comics ended after a 7-issue run?
It's in Mandarin.
Damn. I got Google Translator. Okay.
Anyways.
But I kind of like what you were saying about the lore. You know, we'll probably end up going into more depth. I think I said this before when we were talking about building lore. But don't be afraid to go into more depth about your world. As you were saying, there's no magic. Well, why is there no magic? When most worlds that your players have faced, even though you might not tell them, hey, this is the reason why there's no magic, at least you in your mind know that maybe there was magic in this world before, but it no longer exists, and you have a reason for that. It's not just because I said so.
I would say probably don't enforce, background unless it's story-driven background.
Yep.
So, and don't, build the entire thing off story-driven background.
Try.
Then you're just writing a book yourself, and no one wants to play your book.
Well, not necessarily.
Very few people want to play your book.
I don't plan on writing a book off of this.
Actually, I'd like to have like a paperback book instead of giving me a player's handbook with a couple sections of the lore in it. Give me a fictional story set in the world.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is though, is if you're making your introduction to a heavy lore-driven campaign that is a story that you're writing pretty heavily, it's not a fun. Maybe a fun thing to read, but not a fun thing for you to actually role play your way through.
Well, I would say don't force your players to play the story of your book. In fact, don't even consider your campaign to be necessarily part of that story. If you are interested in writing a book and you have a world, I will admit to doing this because I have an ongoing game going on online with Nate and one other person that involves a world that I would like to one day put into a book. I'm not necessarily considering everything that's going on canon. A lot of the things that are going on with their characters are probably going to be canon, but for the most part, I'm exploring all the different possibilities and I'm exploring the lore myself. And it's allowing me to do that, and I kind of explained at the beginning of the game that this is what I'm planning on doing, and I'm sadly going to have to say that unless I come to you and ask if I can put your character into the book, your character's probably not going to end up being in it.
That said, I think we've pretty well covered this topic.
Well, also, another thing for world building that I thought of that I probably should include here as a GM, you need to listen to your players. Mm-hmm. Even if it's unintentional, you can twist whatever idea comes out of their head and just make it part of the campaign.
Yes. Don't be afraid to Stay Puft Marshmallow them.
Because in my campaign, it was... And a one-day event was just going to be, it's a dream. And person sitting at the table says, oh, is this a mirror world? You can go straight to hell with that.
We were just in a mirror world. We had released a villain from the mirror world, and we woke up in an area that was oddly similar. It was my thought of where we were.
And I was just going to have it be, oh, it's a dream.
So we were misremembering things is basically why it was different?
It's a dream of what happened in the village 40 years ago, and random person at the table said, oh, is it this? And you just think to yourself for 15 seconds, can I go this way? Yes, I absolutely can. And just go that way, and you have story that you can build on for at least the next 6-7 sessions with ease.
So you're just building the world as you go along.
Yep.
Yes,
Yeah.
but the reason that makes it easy is because he's like, oh, is it mirror world? So you're just doing the exact opposite of what the world you built is now the world you're in. So whatever you said was dead is now living. Whatever you said was gone is now available.
Yay! But yeah.
It's just another way to just introduce the world in smaller bites.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
One thing I'll also add, I have found another thing about listening to players is if you do kind of know your players, know what kind of stuff about your world would interest them. You know, even if it is, again, a prepackaged setting, like Shard or Exalted or
See, I tried to do...
Eberron, know what would interest them and then present that to those players. I think that's
See, I tried to do that. I tried to do that in one of my... I can actually think of one time where that failed miserably when I thought it shouldn't have. And that was with the Deadlands campaign because I introduced a portion of the world that at least 2 of our players were highly interested in, and they still didn't give a crap.
Yes. Not sure what happened there.
No idea. Just remember, even if you give them something they may like, some players just want to watch the world burn.
There's nothing wrong with watching the world burn, then you just have to go with it.
Yes, and that's when dynamite kills the group that was trying to kill the other person.
So your new world is in the ashes.
Yeah,
Yep.
whatever.
Well,
Do we have a question?
we do not have a question.
Anyone have an idea for a question?
Well, I was also going to give our election results.
Oh, okay.
Okay, give our election results real quick and try to think of
So,
questions.
The votes are in a amazing,
Minuscule heat.
in a minuscule heat. Lich Lord Bryan has won, and we will be doing Hordes Unleashed.
So I had a small lead for me being the GM, or
You had 3 votes for you being GM, 2 votes for Unleashed,
okay.
which was the most votes out of all of us.
Yay!
So yes, apparently our Lich Lord has a fan base
Of the people who voted.
of the people who voted.
Seeing that there were more views than there were votes.
Whatever. It's like the American electorate. You know, on a non-presidential election.
So that means
In
of
April.
the games, Mickey
In
Mouse
April.
could have won.
In April, yes. Yes, but Mickey didn't win.
And let's keep it that way.
I don't know. It might be interesting. Will we get a Disney representative coming here? And
As far as I know, he's not even eligible to hold public office here. You have to be a resident first.
I think she was talking about our game, not,
Yes.
public office.
Oh,
Well, Mickey is 35 at least, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could say he lives in California.
That is true.
come on.
could
The governor, I think Mickey could do it.
I think Mickey could GM, but could we put up with his voice for 3 hours?
Eh.
Yo, I think we'd great GM. Goofy. You
No,
know
we
he'll
already-
never be able to make any rolls to kill us. He'd be a great GM.
Yeah, true.
Although the basement might be trashed every single time after he leaves.
No comment.
Well, considering the basement's already trashed.
Well, also consider, again, California residents, we'd probably have to Skype him in.
Or we could just get a Disney representative.
come on, they're
or
wealthy.
we could-
Those people are wealthy enough to fly first class out here. And I'm
Okay.
talking about the actual characters.
I have a question of the week.
Go ahead.
If you could have any weird, wacky, or famous person GM for our group, who would it be?
Liz, why don't you go first?
I am going to vote for Weird Al Yankovic.
Crap!
I would say that Weird Al Yankovic would be a great GM because I would have no idea what to expect next.
I'll take the guy who played Howard on Big Bang Theory because, assuming he's anything like his character, who GM'd, his GM games were pretty interesting. So, for one night he'd be fun. I'm going with people who I've actually seen, do it in some fashion.
Okay, so
It could
as
even
any
be
fictional
any
character,
fictional character.
Deadpool.
Are we gonna survive that?
He's not actually pulling guns on us.
You don't know that. But would
But
it be
he
fun?
breaks the fourth wall all
yes,
the time.
Yes, he does. It'd be
Okay.
like my one campaign where I had in order to beat the main boss, you guys had to break the fourth wall. That was actually pretty fun.
I think I introduced that to the campaign as well.
Carolyn, how about you?
Oh god, I have no idea. I don't know goofy people.
It doesn't necessarily have to be goofy. It could be also just somebody who's famous.
Henry Rollins would be awesome. He does a lot of spoken word stuff. I think he would be good at it.
Honestly, I think just for having that awesome voice to deliver DM narration, Morgan Freeman.
Okay, you just picked a great narrator at that point. And as soon as you said narration, I'm like, is he going to pick Morgan Freeman?
But,
Yes, he is.
but I think for somebody who could write a campaign, 1990s M. Night Shyamalan. You know, about Sixth Sense era. And Unbreakable, you know, back when his twists weren't so obvious, you saw them coming at the beginning of the movie.
Looking at you, Village.
Okay, so you would have him write it, and then Morgan Freeman GM it. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Make it sound epic.
Ever since
You
I
want epic? Have the Hulk do it. I mean, I'm talking like the animated version of Hulk, where he actually has intelligence. And then he just gets upset at everyone and just smashes the table through the wall. Game's over for the night.
Are we going to have like a huge pile of D20s? Nat 1. Crush it, and he crunches it into dust.
Make sure all your D20s watch so they learn not to betray. I might lend you out to him.
One round, one player rolls nat 20s on all their attacks. He flips the table like you said.
Okay, we're done.
Remember, let the Hulk win.
Okay. That was a good question.
I thought so.
We will see you all next when we begin Iron Kingdoms Unleashed.
And also in 2 weeks when we do the next podcast.
That's right.
Yeah.
If you just watch us for the podcast and you're not interested in the gameplay, who knows when we will see you again.
Yes, I have the starter kit for Unleashed here.
And hopefully the Unleashed book will be out soon.
22nd of April.
Oh, crud. I was hoping to play a Warlock.
Sorry, it's going to be this stuff. I could have bought it at Adepticon, but I'm going to buy it from my game store.
I know.
Can I play the skull with snakes crawling out of the eyes?
No, that is... You can possibly have a character who has that on them, but you can't play the skull itself.
Damn.
There's 4 characters in it, so maybe I can have you guys pick your characters tonight if you want to do it.
I think we can do that.
Okay.
We'll see you all soon. And just remember, don't kill us.
We're the PCs.